A very good morning. Oh, it's a beautiful sunny morning. Amazing. I don't know the last time I sat in the sun. My goodness, it's been almost 6 months. Maybe not. So, anyway, Mama Watara Talks. Good morning and welcome to another beautiful edition of Mama Watara Talks. This talk comes to you from a place of peace and utmost love. Oh my goodness, we just shine different when it's sunny, So anyway, it's been a while. Mama Toro here. So the last time I posted a video, I was standing right here, the same exact spots, and it was snowing. Oh my goodness. And it's hard to imagine that that is not even more than a month ago. So maybe around 3 weeks ago, I think. Amazing, amazing. So this just brought something to my mind. It got me thinking. And I'm like, the way sometimes change can happen, but it can happen so slowly. It's so gradual that we barely notice. I bet the temperatures have been rising slowly, but because we've been in the dark and winter and rains and everything, snow, for so long, I barely noticed the temperature rise. I guess the people who look at the weather every day, the people who, they have a culture of looking at the temperatures before they leave the house must have noticed. Anywho, so that got me thinking, the way sometimes when you're going through a difficult time, it just doesn't seem to end. Like some situations have been the same for so long that it actually feels like it's the norm. Like sometimes you sit down and you ask yourself, like, are things ever going to really change? Will they change? And it's so difficult to see beyond the horizon. It's so difficult to picture the sun just like this in the middle of a storm, in the middle of snow, in the middle of the cold, in the middle of the dark afternoons and early short days. But here we are. Here we are, amazing. So when we're going through difficult times, hurdles in life, we just don't see the horizon. It just feels so dark. It just feels, you feel defeated. You don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. But today, sitting right here in the same spot that I was in a few weeks ago, with the snow coming down on my hair and my face, and me just taking in all that moment, today is proof that things actually change. And just the way I said in my last video, the weather is always a good reminder that nothing is static, nothing remains the same. If you just pause and take it all in, it will change. It will change. It might take a long time. It might seem that it's taking forever, but nothing remains the same. So for that reason, I always stop to try and enjoy, whatever it is, the moments. There are some things you can't enjoy because some people are going through, it depends on the intensity of what you're going through. Some people are physically challenged, some people are health-wise, they're not doing well. So there's no way you're gonna, sit down and your body is not in a good place, you're feeling weak, you're feeling sick, and see the beauty in that situation. But I promise you, nothing remains the same. So it's amazing. And at the same time, I'm sitting here drinking my healthy teas. So what I have here is moringa and stuff, other things, rosemary and the rest. But on that note, this brings me to the next topic. For the longest time, I'm mixing topics here, but that's who I am, storyteller. I tend to jump from one story to another. And that's the beauty of telling stories. So on to stories. I think I wanted to talk about toxic people. Heavy topic. So we all know one or two or three of toxic people in our lives, and that's so many because of the way life is now. A lot of people are not in a good space, and now more than ever, I see that a lot of people had difficult childhoods. Everybody has a story. Nobody had it smooth. Even the people who have lived privileged lives also have stories, and they went through stuff. So, we're living on earth, so nothing is ideal. And because of the different ways in which we grew up, different challenges, different experiences, sometimes it can affect the person. It does affect the person that we become when we grow up. And for that reason, if we don't find healing I have my own stories. Trust me, many stories. And I know you do too. So if we don't find healing for the things that broke us when we were younger, our younger self, then chances are high that we will keep oozing and bleeding on the people who had nothing to do with that past. And on the same note, the things that have happened to us when we were younger at different stages of our lives. I mean, the things that we've gone through, even in our 20s. In my 20s, I went through, some things, some of the hardest breakups in my life. And looking back, I got that moment of epiphany. Is it epiphany? I'm not very good with words sometimes. And I had a flashback of some of the things that I went through in my 20s when I was 21, mid to mid 20s, and it came back to me. Like, it's now 20 years down the lane that flashback came to me, and I realized that, you know what, you are in such a delicate space, such a toxic environment at that stage in your life. And I still managed to bounce through. So we are all different. Anyway, here I am. We all have stories, like I said. So what happens is that if you don't heal from the things that broke you, what you will be doing is that you will have these deep wounds. You have these deep wounds, and these wounds will keep festering. And if you've watched stories of burn victims, I've never got a burn in my life, but I watch different stories from different peoples. And if you watch people who've been burned, who've had third-degree burns and so on and so forth, 80% of their skin fell off. And what happens is that it is a painful process when they try to restore your skin back to nearly to where it was, because the scars always remain. And sometimes they have to give it like a thorough wash. People, I mean, when you watch these stories, people go through stuff and they have to take off the old skin, which is a painful process. There's no nice way to do it. Even with medication, it's still very painful. And they have to scrub off that old skin in order for the wound to remain fresh and then start growing in new skin cells. And then when you meet these people years later, what you see as scars, but underneath that scar, the wound is healed. I mean, the people still say they will struggle, like when the sun comes, but the wound is healed and it forms a scar. So some of us are walking around with scars, and the scars are a representation that there was once some wound there that was festering, but it healed. And for the wounds that didn't heal, for those people who somebody inflicted some wound on you when you were young, because when we are young, we don't know, we don't know any better. We are children. And a wound was inflicted on you. And as you grew up, you do notice that you have a wound on you, because you feel it, you see it, you live with it every day. And this wound, a time comes when you have to take responsibility for your own wounds, to go through the painful process of unleashing those wounds, of looking at your wounds for what they are, as they are oozing past. Look at them and decide that you want to heal your wounds. You know what I mean? You are going to go through the cleaning process. You're going to take that salt and water and bathe in it and cleanse yourself. It is a very painful and delicate process, but you know what? At the end of the day, your new skin will start growing. Because if you don't do that, your wound will start smelling. Yes, it will. Yes, it will. You might live in denial. You might pretend you don't notice, but the people around you will notice, and some of them will call you out on it. Your wound will start festering, and it will start oozing, and it will start being unpleasant. And a time will come when people will not want to be around you. So take care of your wounds every day. Tend to those wounds, tend to those scars. Scars are a reminder that there was once a wound there, so that you don't go through the same process again. I mean, heal those wounds. And sometimes it takes a whole community to heal wounds that were caused by childhood trauma. Look for people to help you with your wound. If you can't do it alone, because you cannot clean your own burns, you need the nurses, the doctors, the caregivers to work with you. I once worked in a hospital as a domestics facilities. Here it's given such a nice name, but let me just say, as a cleaner, and in these wards, I saw how the process of healing can be slow and steady, and how different patients were affected in their healing. And they had to work with so many people. There was a whole team of doctors here. I'm talking about my experience right here in Glasgow. One patient would have like surrounded like by like 5 people, 5 specialists on a morning visit. And this was the neurology department. So people had issues with their back, their spines, and some were bedridden for some time. And amazing, even some of the patients that you did not see hope and you thought that this was the end, they would surprise you. And in a couple of months, working with the doctors, the physiotherapists, the caregivers, the nurses, this person would be up and on a wheelchair. And that was some of the most amazing times I had in those wards, was seeing a patient move from the bed to a wheelchair, and in a couple of months walking with the whatever crutches. And those are the days when you look at somebody, you don't know these patients, but you almost feel like you just want to hug them. And on those days I was smiling and I was like, that was the best part of that job. Cleaning is not fun, especially in a hospital, but I did it knowing that I'm doing something to contribute to the healing process of somebody who can do it for themselves. So rewind. The process of healing from the wounds that were inflicted on us by our childhood experiences can be such a painful process, and you need help. It is admitting that I have wounds, and some of these wounds were not within my power. I was a child. I touched a burning stove because I did not know that the stove was hot, or somebody threw a burning stove at me because I was a child. I could not defend myself. But now that I'm an adult and I know better, I'm going to find a team of specialists to help me clean this wound. It is painful, just the thought of it, that I have to sit in salty water, that I have to try and move my leg that was broken from an accident, the leg that is not functioning. But just the thought of being able to get your mobility back, being able to go on that wheelchair and move around and not be bed-bound, because there's very little we can do when we are static. But then again, we can also do so much if we are willing to accept the situation. I mean, if the doctor says you're going to be in bed for the rest of your life, there's still something that you can do from bed. I always say that as long as we're breathing, some days are so hard that as long as we can just sit and breathe. Like, look at me this morning. I'm sitting out here with a mug of whatever, and I should be indoors cleaning, but I came back in the morning and I was like, you know what? It's such a beautiful day. Like, I'm just going to sit out here and enjoy the sun for as long as I want, because why not? Why not? Sometimes you need to stop. So if the only thing you do today is breathe, well done. You've done well. So we are continuously looking for a team of specialists, because if we don't heal the things that broke us in the first place, if we don't clean out those wounds, if we don't dress them up every day, if we don't remove the old bandage and put on a new bandage every day, we are going to stink on other people. Yes, we are going to ooze pus and spread it onto other people who had nothing to do with this. So if you have you have a good support system and they're willing to help you with this process, that reaching out their hand to you, that stretching out their hand, take their hand. It is hard, but together you can do it. Everybody has that one person in their life who is a good support system. So that is life. That is life, because at the end of the day, we have to keep living. And what is the purpose of surviving? What is the purpose of having a room and the lights are on, but you're not there? Physically, we see you, but internally you're dead. You're like a ghost, because you've refused. You don't work on yourself. Working on yourself is a daily process, people. Every day. It's an everyday process. It's conscious living. It's telling yourself that today I'm up and I'm going to clean my wounds. It is like taking that journey to the hospital. When you have a broken leg, when you're going through physiotherapy, and the thought of waking up in the morning and knowing that you are going to go through that process all over again, the same way you did yesterday, you're going to be dressed up. I mean, comment below if you've been through a process that needed to take you to the hospital for a cleanup or restructuring of any sorts. So you're not alone. You're not alone. We have all gone through excruciating pain at some point in our lives. Sometimes we think we're the only ones, but when we listen to other stories, people have gone through stuff, but we can do something about it if you're willing. Because if you don't, it might just be a tad too late by the time you come to your senses and you realize that whatever it is that you're going through is affecting the rest of your community. You know, it starts with your family. If you don't heal your immediate family, your siblings, your parents, you will never find peace with these people, and it will spread on to your own immediate family, your children. You know, you are gonna end up inflicting the pain that you went through. You're transferring that pain from you directly onto your children, because it is born to come out in the way that you relate with your children and your family and the people around, your colleagues. You know, you see people who are always angry, they are frustrated, they are in such a bad mood, like nothing makes them happy. Everything is just bad already before my day starts. But why? Because they're battling with something that they're not willing to address. So why should the rest of the world pay the price? And especially when it's children, man. Children, your own children, you know. And now the more I read, because I love reading and watching a lot of clips, and when I watch stories on people who've had to deal with like abusive parents, you know, narcissistic mothers, narcissistic fathers, and how they treated their children, your own child, you know, these things, you pass them on. You pass them on. So it doesn't end with you. If you don't work on it, this is going to be transferred to your children, and your children are going to transfer it to other children, you know. It will affect the way they relate with children in school, and that is why you meet people like bullies. I mean, at what point does a child begin acting funny around other children in school? Because this is what they see at home, because it's coming from a parent who had issues that they did not work on. So it just messes up the whole society. Anyway, change is gradual and it is painful. It's a painful process. I will leave you with this because I could continue forever. But whenever I think of change, it brings me back to the amazing story of the eagle. Yes, the bird, and the things that the eagle has to go through, the many hurdles that it has to cross when it gets to a certain point in their life, and then they go through change. They have to regrow a new beak where they don't eat, and apparently it's such a painful process to come back to a place where you can start eating again. And the eagle lives on to, I think they have a life expectancies of 40 years or plus. I could be wrong. I'll go back and check, because I've watched this story so many times you'd think I would know. Anyway, it's such a painful process, but the eagle goes through it and comes out triumphant and learns to fly again. So we can all be that eagle. Thanks for watching. That was Mama Watoto on the rant, long rant this morning as I'm sitting out in the sun enjoying my morning. Thanks for watching again. Mama Watoto. For more videos like this, click share and like. Have a beautiful week. For Mama Watoto, happy Monday. Oriti.